believe it's after 6 already. I left my office at 10 on. Which is just upstairs. Ange, how you doing?
Ready?
You ready?
Yeah.
We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone here? Ooh, that's loud. Is there anyone here that cares to make a comment? A question or has an issue they'd like to present to this board that is not on tonight's agenda? Pam will let you go, but I believe you're on the agenda.
I'm going to say keep time a little while. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you. Each and every one of you touched Jack. And it was why he loved this job and why he had such great friendships. And I just wanted to thank each and every one of you, because when he would come home, I would get all the notes, so I know what's going on in this town. I also know where the bones are buried. So Jack is here with you. Those are from his coffin, and the cookies are for you. Please pass them around. And Matt, I don't know who you're gonna talk to about sports.
So.
Carrie, he was buried in a Notre Dame shirt, so
I love it.
we kept the tradition. So thank you all very much from the bottom of my heart. Eddie, I'm gonna be eating that food forever. Right, so much wonderful food. So thank you all. I'm not gonna stay because I only cried. And I have to go to the mausoleum anyways. Only been there once too.
I'll come over, and when I go through Jack's paperwork, I'll eat some of the food.
You have so much paperwork to go through, Eddie, you and Carrie. It's good. He has piles of projects that he was working on, so. I'll make some coffee and some monkey bread. And
Oh, no.
and we'll dig into that.
Okay, anyone else? Is there another? All right, with that, I'll ask the clerk to take the roll.
Supervisor Michaelenko,
Here.
Councilors Alex,
Here.
Firenza,
Here.
Lee Hood,
Here,
Mannion,
Here.
and Rock Michelle.
Here.
Hey. We've got a couple of public meetings scheduled tonight, and it's already past 6:05, so we'll jump right to the first one. Local law and water discontinuance. Basically, this is a law to,
You notice? It's what for
what's that?
notice?
Oh, yeah, I was the clerk, read the notice.
Notice is hereby given pursuant to the provisions of section 20 subdivision 5 of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York. A public hearing will be held by the town board of the town of DeWitt in the county of Onondaga and state of New York on Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 6:05 PM in the town offices, 5400 Butternut Drive, DeWitt, New York, on the question of establishing an amended chapter 186, section 15, entitled Discontinuance of Service, and chapter 186, section 23, entitled Cross Connections Prohibited, to establish new regulations relating to discontinuance of water service and prohibition of cross connections. Said copy of proposed local laws on file in the town clerk's office, 5400 Butternut Drive, may be examined by any interested persons during regular business hours prior or after the date of hearing. And that was published in the Post Standard.
Hey, again, for the board, this is a law which gives us a little bit of teeth when we go to change out the meters, but we have a meter program that will be kicking up, and we have over 10,000 hookups to our water system, and we will notice people, try to contact them, give them several opportunities to allow us to access the meters and make those changes. But this gives us a little bit of teeth. If we have no cooperation and are unable to make those changes, we have the ability to threaten discontinuance of service, which should help get us in to make those changes. And any questions?
I'll just add that these are the same or substantially the same as all the regulations that are used by Aqua. So we did not try and invent something new. We just used what the county is using for these items.
Anyone in the audience come to speak to this issue? You wait for the next public hearing. Okay. Any other comments from the board? With that, I'll close the public hearing.
I do have one
Yep.
question. In terms of how this gets out to the public, we're sending notices, is that correct, to every individual prior to, how are we
Every
planning?
owner of a meter will get a schedule and a request to access that meter. And so then there'll be, if you had the smart meter changeouts by National Grid at all at your house, or it'll be a similar type situation where
No, my question, I think it's at the beginning of the process. That notice is that the one where we then will potentially turn off the services, or is this at the very front end?
the services won't be threatened to turn off until long exhausted any other possibilities of getting it to change out the meters.
At least 3 times we'll reach out.
Thank
to
you.
each.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
at least 3 times.
Yep.
And then if it does go that far, I was gonna say that I think we'll come back and we'll all discuss this before we actually do this. So everybody, maybe somebody knows someone, we can reach out, or I think we'll just talk about it here before if we have to shut somebody.
Right. My guess is,
I'll make sure that the water.
Anything without notice has to do with illegal, unsafe, or hazardous connections that we have to act on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, homeowners will always be noticed.
Okay.
my guess is we go well beyond 3 attempts.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
We'll try phone calls,
Yeah.
knocking on a door, and we would never shut someone's water off unless we absolutely have to.
Thank you.
I think the 3 letters is in the
With the contract.
that we
And then
have.
After that, they would like, then they're gonna put it back on us.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we'll start our process, which will, again, I would agree, much more than 3.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept, or did you have a question?
What if we go to somebody's house and got a lead service?
Oh, then,
Is that something to address now, or is that something they know of and then?
It'll be noted, identified, and then, yeah, we're working on, we have another committee working. on that, how we're gonna try to fund it. Mhm.
Yeah.
Nobody should drive me there in the basement, change the meter.
there is county and state Department of Health assistance available, but it's not for changing the lead lines. It's for addressing the water. So there's filters and
So is the
things.
homeowner on the hook for changing it then?
That's why we have the subcommittee. We're trying to find state and federal funding to help us with this because it's a relatively significant cost for the homeowner to bear.
And we're not sure how big the problem is yet until we go and check all these lines.
So we're definitely in a
It
spreadsheet.
really depends on
We don't know
the
what the scope is yet.
location and the hookup of the meter. One of the issues with lead service lines is you might notice the lead connection at the meter. That's the most likely place inside the house. But most of the connections in the system are likely in the street or under the ground.
Right.
And that's where testing comes in. In our water department and the agencies such as Aqua or the city's water system have limited testing available. And so one of the things that I'm looking to insert in the funds to remedy is the funds to test. Because that's the bottom line, is whether you have the lead presence or not.
Of course,
the testing that you're speaking of, is the testing of the water, or as we discussed, the line
Of the water.
of the water?
Water quality, right?
To show a high level of
Yeah.
lead content. Okay.
I believe any homeowner can submit for a test of
Yeah.
their water, state.
Yeah.
If I wanna know, then I can get a test.
Yeah, just a quick question. When I called about my possibly having lead pipe running in the house, the age of my house, built in '86, your engineer said no problem. He said it just didn't happen. It would either be PEG or copper.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be part of this then?
Oh,
We'll get a new meter.
it's not likely, very unlikely that a
Well,
house
that's new
built in
house.
1986 was serviced with any lead connections. Most of the areas that we have concerns are in our elderly neighborhoods.
So you'll be selecting certain residents to target.
Yeah, so our testing would be focused on those elderly areas. In Onondaga County, it's the city of Syracuse and the villages, some of the older neighborhoods up against the city. So
Janesville.
I live in Orvilleton. Orvilleton is an elderly neighborhood. Houses were built post World War II, 45 through 50. Those areas are likely to have lead connections. Any of the newer neighborhoods, 1970s beyond, are not likely.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so again, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept the ordinance from Sarah and a second from Max. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay, I'll ask the clerk to read the notice on the no parking for Cherry Drive.
Notice is hereby given pursuant to the provisions of section 20 subdivision 5 of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York that a public hearing will be held by the town board of the town of DeWitt in the county of Onondaga on Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 6:10 PM prevailing time in the town office, 5400 Butternut Drive. To consider a local law amending chapter 181, section 50 of the town code of the town of DeWitt to provide for no parking zone on both sides of Canterbury Road from Jamesville Road East for a distance of 403 feet to a point of 158 feet from Whitshire Road from 7 AM to 4 PM. Copy of said proposed local laws on file in the town clerk's office, 5400 Butternut Drive, and may be examined by any interested person during regular business hours. This was published in the Post Standard.
Hey, again, I'll take responsibility here. I should have reviewed this before it went out. I apologize because I know this board met on this a couple of times and the recommendation was that this would be imposed on school days only.
Yeah.
And therefore, what the intent here is today is to hold the public hearing open to make those changes, which are significant changes. Whenever you make a significant change to an ordinance, you got to readdress the process. And so this will go through noticing the county and then come back to us. This could take another month or so. So we'll schedule the follow-up or the extension of this public hearing each board meeting until we can close it. That's the simplest and easiest way to maintain the public hearing and keep it open. But yeah, there's I believe a couple of residents here and we apologize. And one of the reasons we were opting for only the school days is it poses an imposition on homeowners to have that no parking burden in front of your house. We had this issue come to us several years ago on the opposite side of Jamesville Road. In all instances, we've attempted to work with the school district to minimize the effect on homeowners surrounding the school. And we posted no parking signs on the opposite side of Jamesville Road and into the streets toward Cornwell. And what happened is the problem transferred. It came back to Canterbury and the east side of Jamesville Road. And so we've reached out to the school district, we'll continue to reach out to the school district. The hope is that the new superintendent and new principal, that Moses DeWitt, will help corral the staff and school teachers. And it may be likely that there's young families that need to get to their children and out, but the bottom line is they need to retain their employee parking on their property so that it doesn't affect the streets. And the reason it's not is those employees are trying to get out before the buses. So if they hold their parking on the property, they're gonna have to wait until after the buses. But anyways, this ordinance will help push that through. And again, for the residents' sake, I apologize that we're gonna extend this out further, but it's definitely be all cleared up before September.
Yeah, so thank you. This is Marion, I'm Marion Fish. We live at 170, so we're, right in the area. And that was our main concern with the proposal, was that it was going to be overly broad to include all days instead of just limited to school days, which seemed like that was the issue to begin with. The only other question I had was on the footage. I haven't really analyzed that, but there is a footage restriction, and I think that has to.
Sorry. It's being very nice. This is really on me for creating too restrictive of a law here.
Okay.
And I've already changed this to account for school days.
Okay.
These distances, I am not really familiar with why they are what they are either. Does that affect, does it affect you or the neighbors?
I believe that it has to do with the easterly border of the school property on Canterbury. It seems to be, maybe that's.
So we could do all the way down the street, but I don't want that to be a problem.
Yeah, I'd say don't do it all the way down. That's fine with me. It doesn't add that many more parking spaces because of driveways that come within that stretch. So that's not really that big a deal. Then the other thing I just wanted to point out is that the current signage says on the southerly side of Canterbury, no parking all day. And on the northerly side, which is the school side, I think it's restricted. Well, it's not restricted because that's where they're parking. So I guess.
We'll change them all to be consistent with this. once this is
Consistent,
done.
yeah, okay, all right, yep, and that would.
One of
that's our
the
concern. Yep,
issues is, and this will be revisited by both our police department and our highway department. I didn't check the distances, but typically the distances are from a corner, which allow a large emergency vehicle
to get around.
to get around, so long fire trucks and things of that nature. So there will be some distances posted
Exactly.
that this, those areas will be probably permanent.
Yeah.
No parking or whatever, but again, it's gotta go back to our police and our highway
Are you
department.
in the middle of the block? Where are you?
We're right.
Yeah, one of the issues with opening up both sides is that even during those other hours, if two cars park on the street during those relaxed hours, after 4 PM or on a weekend, those same emergency vehicles could be impeded. So there's gotta be a look of,
Something.
yeah, a review for allowing large emergency vehicles through. Yeah.
I understand that.
And you would think, I've had teenage drivers and stuff, and you would think someone would recognize a parked car on one side of the street and not park
Right.
on. But speaking from my own experiences, it's not something that some drivers even think about, and they block emergency vehicles.
The only other question that I had, and it's never been an issue, we've been violating the signage, is when we have contractors, like the yarn people that come temporarily to park and work at our house, but it's never been a problem. So I don't know.
Yeah, one of our chief is here, but we don't typically go looking to ticket people, common sense prevails. It's only during a problem, like I said, when two vehicles are impeding.
I would imagine that the issue would be limited specifically to like the pickup time. So if you have that line of cars, of people standing, waiting to pick up their kids, and then a particularly wide landscape truck or whatever is parked in front of your house, and so vehicles can't get through there, then that might be a time where somebody has an issue or something.
Once we do this new rule, we won't have that. Because there won't be cars. I mean, if there's no cars parked there, then there'll be access.
They shouldn't be parked, but they might continue to idle.
Oh.
Yeah, because I know Moses has had the discussion, post-COVID, there's definitely been an uptick.
Yeah.
They don't know where else to send parents.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I think that's just speaking frankly, even if we were to have a no parking on either side of the road, parents are still going to take idling because it's not parking.
Yeah, that's just
So-
waiting in line.
Yes.
Put them
Make
down
them ride the bus, go back to the bus.
Put them in top parking lot. Put them down top parking lot.
It's hard when the schools actively spent 2 years telling parents to not ride the bus if possible.
Right.
All of those kids are used to getting dropped
Yeah,
off.
they're very used to it.
We can continue that conversation though, a part of idling and egress for Moses, ingress and egress for Moses with the school district.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marion.
My thought to that, particularly with the school, and I know this conversation has been going on 3 years.
Yeah.
What if emergency vehicles, other than just the emergency lane in front of the school, need to get around on Canterbury? So the concern should be, we want our children to be safe.
Mhm.
That families are safe, so we're gonna park in the lot.
Exactly. I think that's, yeah.
I mean, to me, that should be the conversation. So, but that conversation's been going on since much of the.
Yeah, I think they need to work on
30
the
years.
cover out.
This is a
Here are a few
very
offers.
good opportunity to bring this back to the fore. Because we have a new administration coming into place.
Next to it.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave the public hearing open.
Yeah.
I do not believe I need any action, right,
Can
in order to do that.
We reschedule right now, or did they have?
Oh, it's just,
I would say the board should vote the table.
oh, to table and leave it open? Okay. And then we'll set a time for the next meeting,
Send out a notice, we'll send out the new law. Be good.
or do you-
Because you can just close it, because I have to redo this law, I have to make changes to the law. So really, I'm just restarting
okay,
from start. So whether you table it or not is really inconsequential.
okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing from Sarah and a second from Carrie. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. I'll entertain a motion to schedule the
Sure.
public hearing. Do you need a month to get
Do it.
this back from the county or?
Yeah, our next meeting is June.
Yeah, June.
Oh,
That's
okay.
fine. Well, June.
All right,
First meeting in June is fine. We have one more thing on June. The moratorium, but that's it.
okay, so we're looking at
Six,
June 9th.
6:10 on June 9th.
Yep, June 9th, 6:10. So I entertain a motion to schedule the public hearing. Sarah, and a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
I'm gonna leave these distances in this law unless I'm told otherwise. 403 feet and 158 feet.
I'd revisit that with Rock and Shane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my only,
So at some point, someone must have staked those out
my
exactly.
only concern is exactly what you said, the two cars parking on opposite sides of the road across from each other still produces a problem. So if it was like, one side was all the way down, but one side was the 150 feet, I don't know if that would be better.
again, I don't,
That's a, yeah.
yeah, I
All
have-
right, we'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
Talk to the chief.
It will be,
That won't be fun.
it will be reposted for the public
Yes.
review before we meet again.
Yes.
hey.
Got it.
And I know, I just want to move on to Jack Doling. I know, again, all of yous were close associates and close friends of Jack. I've known Jack for over 60 years. And I think most of you heard this already, but he was a coach of Little League Baseball, Pop Warner Football, and my CYO basketball coach. He coached for decades. He was a Vera House volunteer. He accompanied and provided safety to victims of abuse and was a volunteer of the year for Vera House. He worked with Catholic Charities and immigrant resettlement. He helped settle a number of Ukrainian families in central New York. He was a codfish volunteer. He drove individuals in need to doctor's appointments. He had a massive heart attack while helping someone. He had that at his kitchen table. His since 2012, he had 2 years off, but was a town councilor, and you know him as a man of action. He has a list of accomplishments here on the board, and we're gonna miss him. He was a highly productive board member, and again, I always say, not judge people by not what they say, but by what they do. And Jack was a guy that got things done. So anyways, we'll recognize him tonight with a moment of silence. And I do want to hear from folks as to what we should do as a lasting tribute. I think that he was a strong supporter of Carrier Park, and he's asked for all his proceeds in lieu of flowers go to the park. And so I'm thinking something might be appropriate there. Angela had some good thoughts about what we might do here at Town Hall. And so the conversation as to what we might do in his tribute is open and for suggestions. And at some point in the future, we'll try to do something definitive. So with that, I'll ask for a moment of silence and recognition of him. And you'll have to pass around Pam's cookies. All right, with that, let me move down to the amyotrophic lateral sclerosis proclamation. This is Lou Gehrig's disease, the same way again. I've had two very close friends die of this disease, one that never knew each other. One was a work associate from New Jersey and the other was a local here. And it's just a terrible and horrible disease. And so I don't think there's anything more fitting than action on this movement, and any attention / motivation you can bring to raising funds for its research or pushing it as an issue is greatly appreciated. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and Bernard.
So Bernard and I are jointly going to read the proclamation declaring May as Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis Awareness Month. Whereas amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS and Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive fatal neurodegenerative disease in which a person's brain loses connection with their muscles, slowly reducing a person's ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. And whereas thousands of new ALS cases are reported every year, and estimates show that every 90 minutes, someone is diagnosed with ALS and someone passes away from ALS. And whereas on average, patients diagnosed with ALS survive only 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis. And whereas the exact causes of ALS are unknown and there is no known cure for ALS. And whereas people who have served in the military are more likely to develop ALS and die from the disease than those with no history of military service. And whereas securing access to new therapies, durable medical equipment, and communication technologies is of vital importance to people living with ALS. And whereas clinical trials play a pivotal role in evaluating new treatments, enhancing quality of life, and fostering assistive technologies for those living with ALS. And whereas the ALS Association is the largest philanthropic funder of the ALS research globally and has committed more than 154 million to support more than 550 projects across the United States and 18 other countries. And
whereas the ALS Association is committed to accelerating the pace of discovery, fueled by the hope that one day ALS will be a livable disease for everyone, everywhere, until a cure can be found. And whereas amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Awareness Month provides an opportunity to increase public awareness of the dire circumstances of people living with ALS, acknowledge the terrible impact this disease has on those individuals and their families, and support research to eradicate this disease. Now, therefore, Town Councilor,
Town Councilor Sarah Clee Hood.
and I, H. Bernard Alex, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as ALS Awareness Month. And I call upon all Americans to join in supporting ALS research, advocating for increased funding, and standing in solidarity with those affected by this relentless disease. Therefore, we lift the clarion call and urgently ask that all Americans and residents, especially those of the town of DeWitt, join in supporting ALS research, advocating for increased funding, and standing in solidarity with those affected by this relentless disease by contacting our state and federal representatives, pleading with them to ensure that funding continues and increases. Be it further resolved that this resolution be distributed and displayed at Town Hall, on the town website, newsletter, and otherwise publicized during the month of May 2025.
I'll entertain a motion from Sarah and a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Excellent. Years ago, they had the bucket. I haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, they resurrected it. But if I can add, it,
Yes.
as you said, sometimes you just get busy. But I was brought up here, particularly this year, ALS. When I was on the road touring with the show, I met a young lady who's from North Carolina, and she shared with me that some very dear friends of hers moved to the Syracuse area to open a Chick-fil-A in Cicero. And so they opened the Chick-fil-A in Cicero and then another one. And the owner who I met, since he has been here, has been diagnosed with ALS and is now wheelchair bound. His voice is now gone and it is accelerating. But he is still very aware, very engaged, and it's wonderful guy, wonderful family, very supportive of the sports teams, youth sport teams in Cicero, what's it, Pop Warner League, baseball. So you never know how it will impact you. It's closer than you may think.
That's horrible. Terrible disease. Horrible. And the
Yeah, he's a real spokesman for, and he's.
Yeah.
And it's just.
My son was from some.
okay, so yes.
It contributes to a lot of things,
And, didn't say it, give me just one sec, Ed, before we close out the ALS.
Yeah.
This was brought to us, via a constituent, and I want to make sure that I get it right because, there is Will Murtaugh, and it was his husband, Bill, who had reached out on behalf of Will, I think to a few different places. And he's a community member here in ALS, or here in DeWitt, suffers from ALS, and was also a vet as well. So he's kind of falling into that larger population that we have. So this was as an outreach from him, and I think we should continue to do it yearly.
Yeah, anything that we can do to help is fully. In fact, there's not enough you can do.
Yeah.
I encourage you all to look up and I'll do the same, the challenge and try to challenge others to contribute. Because research funding is sorely needed for this terrible business. Okay, workplace violence policy update. Angela.
As I was going through some of our policies, the workplace violence one stood out to me because, the only changes I really made was they referenced the town manager, so I replaced that with the comptroller / human resources. Just to update it, and I also changed, it was back when we had a safety word, and we would call downstairs, we've changed that procedure now, so I kind of crossed that out.
Now it's just a button.
No, we have we still have the emergency buttons that people can push, but that you used to be able to call down with a code word. But to administration, but we no longer do that. We just call 911 or press one of the panic buttons.
It's reflected in the new policy.
Yes, yeah.
Are those panic buttons in all departments?
All departments, yes, have a mobile, they have a mobile panic button.
On the phone, okay.
No, not on the phone. It's
It's around.
and then a few also have hardwired.
Like the Staples.
Easy button.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing, is a staple button.
Is that going to the clerks or is it going back to the officers?
That goes to 911.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't go to it goes to 911.
The panic button does.
Yes, yeah, any of them.
Hopefully the need for these diminishes greatly when we get our security construction complete.
Are you comfortable with it going to 911?
Yeah, because but can we talk about an executive session? Okay, yeah, I
I'll
will.
stay for that too. I can kind of touch on that.
Extending your night nap too.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the policy. Bernard, a second from Joe. Call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. The IIMC conference.
I apologize because I usually put together a much more comprehensive packet for you guys when I go to conferences. But this conference, which is an international conference, and also helps me work towards getting a certification internationally as a municipal clerk. This year it's at the St. Louis in Missouri from May 17th to May 22nd. And the total plus meals and incidentals would be $2,002, and that includes most of my meals, the hotel and flight and registration.
Hey, any discussion? Again, I think that Angela's doing a fantastic job in increasing her levels of expertise and understanding of the job. She's an officer in the New York State Conference of Town Clerks and Tax Receivers. And she's got, by the old standards, 2 full-time jobs as a tax receiver and a clerk. And so again, the more you can do to increase your, we used to call it sharpening your saw, which is kind of passe, but what that does is, again, it makes you much more efficient, more knowledgeable, and brings you up to the higher level of standards. So again, I hope this is something that you continue after my departure, but I don't think I've ever denied department head and individual access to training.
I think it's great. Make sure that you say you're from a small town in upstate New York called Wet. Get us on that international scene.
You can say Central New York, you can't even say upstate because you say upstate and they think you're from New York City.
That's fair.
So
Yeah.
trust me, I'm always adding DeWitt in there. But we are actually one of the we are a larger town. We are not actually considered a small town.
Love that.
Mhm.
That's another thing should get changed too. I mean, the suburban town status will allow you as a board to set traffic speeds limits. Right now, you're a rural town in classification, and with former boards, they would never support the change, but look at that in the future. Go to a suburban town, the supervisor gets a little bit more power. And that's been one of the reasons it never happened, but I recommend for the future of the town and the board that you look at that and make that transition and allow this board to set, again, with ROC and input from your police department, speed limits throughout the town. Okay, but yeah, if you look at our population numbers, we're 25,000 people, but we have 50,000 workers a day come in. So any given point in time, we're 75,000 people. And most of the upstate cities, were larger than a good number of them. Okay, town, did we
We
vote?
didn't approve.
We didn't vote, okay. I spoke too long, sorry.
I hope
I'll entertain a motion. Max, a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay, the town board minutes of April 28th.
But I'm gonna go back because I also need another motion for the Mystica conference. I mathed my math wrong. And, I just, I was short $196 for additional expenses that I didn't calculate something right. So I was over the fifth.
I'll entertain a motion to increase that budget by $200. Motion from Joe and a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried.
I appreciate your support from everybody.
Town board minutes, April 28th. I have a motion from Carrie and a second from Max. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay, the check registers, I know we can do all.
Vehicles.
Oh,
It might not be on your print.
yep. Sorry about that, Rack.
It's fine.
Take it away.
So we'd like to purchase some vehicles, 3 for the highway, 1 for the parks. The first one, should be in front of you is a 3,500 Chevy cabin chassis. This is for our sign truck, which we will take our current body off of our sign truck and install it on the new truck, and then I'll come back to you guys to auction that truck in the fall. Anybody have any questions on this? So the Capilino Chevrolet at $46,472.88 for that one.
Okay. Any questions? See that again.
In mini bid, we did the state mini bid. Do you want to do individual or do you want to do all of them and then make one motion? How do you want to do?
Individuals.
Want to
So I'll
do?
do it every time.
Okay.
Motion about.
Again, this is replacing a 19-year-old vehicle. I have a motion from Max and a second from Joe. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay,
The next one would be a Chevy Silverado 3,500 regular cab work truck. This will have an 8-foot box on it. It's replacing the 2015 Ford, which obviously you can see this is used in the winter. It has a Salter on it. We put on it for dead ends, so it definitely reduces the age of the vehicle quickly. So we're probably going to reuse the plow and reuse the sander. And we're just going to purchase this truck. This is another Capilino Chevrolet at $48,898.33. Any questions? Yeah,
yeah,
3 of them from Capilino.
Are they delivering?
The FLB to our shop.
I have a motion from Max and a second from Joe. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried.
So this is another, basically the same truck, but this one has the lift gate on it. So we use this truck to carry a road saw and anything heavy from job to job. It'll come through with the lift gate, 2,000 pound lift gate on it. So that's why it's a little bit more money. That's for the lift gate. Same thing, Capolino Chevrolet at 52,201.33.
This is replacing a 21-year-old vehicle.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion from Max and a second from Joe. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried.
This last one is for Parks Department, which we're replacing a 2003. It's in very poor condition. Got our money out of that one, I think. This is a double cab 2,500, so it'll be able to plow in the winter and tow the trailers and whatever is needed in the summer with mowing equipment. This one is from Chevrolet of Smithtown for 47,494.
Okay. And it's replacing a 22-year-old vehicle. I'll entertain a motion from Joe or Max and Joe. Keep it the same. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain? Motion's carried. Okay.
Probably come back to you guys once we take delivery and get them in service, and we'll auction those other trucks.
I sent an email out today too, and I sent the cost of getting the assessment letter out. I can't remember if we talked about this before or whatever, but I was intending, actually, I've got all the things in motion. This is somewhat time critical to get that out. So it's the total cost of postage is more than the cost of the printing, but it's $4,005 to get out the door. I'd like authorization to send that.
And is that the letter that you wrote up previous,
Yeah, but
last
it's-
year and then resubmitting it this year to everybody?
Yeah, but the dates are critical. Last year, by the time we got it out, we were missing the grievance dates and stuff. And so that's why this is time critical.
Yep.
Because we only got a couple weeks now in May. So the sooner we get it out on the street, the better it should inform people of their of the process for grievance.
Every year, I think I get more exponentially text messages and, hey, you got a minute?
I've already had a number of folks reach out to me. In fact, half of them had told me how much mine went up. So at least they're noticing. That's probably the first one they check.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to authorize that. Sarah, and a second from Carrie. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion's carried. Thank you. All right, any board updates? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to enter executive
Do the
session.
check registers first.
Pardon me?
Oh, check
Check
register.
registers.
Oh, yeah, I got sidetracked on that with the trucks. All right, I'll entertain a motion for the check registers. A motion from Max and a second from Carrie. I'm gonna ask Jack, he's.
He's got it. That's- I know he does.
Felt the need to call, I called Carrie today, I went through them and then I called, I said, I felt like I owed it to Jim, find something to ask.
I know, I was ready.
I don't think his
What's
old
this?
friend was in there this week, so.
No, he was, I did ask about the checkout to Huber Brewer though.
All right, with that, I'll enter, did I accept the motion in a second?
Yeah.
Right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion's carried. All right, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session. From Bernard, a second. From Joe, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion's carried.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.